The Solomon Islands are an archipelago located around 1,000 miles northeast of Australia that became a hotbed of both land-based and naval conflict during World War II, especially from mid-1942 to mid-1943. The main Japanese base in the southwestern Pacific Ocean was located at Rabaul on New Britain Island, the neutralization of which was the ultimate goal of the Allied campaign in the region, Operation Cartwheel. By early 1943, two major centers of Japanese strength to the southeast of Rabaul were located at New Georgia and Kolombangara Islands in the Solomons. Both islands had functioning bases and airfields, with Kolombangara's located on its southern coast at Vila-Stanmore and New Georgia's at Munda Point on its western portion. They were a key target for Allied air and sea bombardment actions in the first half of 1943 in preparation for an Allied invasion of the New Georgia Islands, a subgroup of the Solomons, that summer. On the night of March 5th, two Japanese destroyers, the Murasame and Minegumo, conducted a supply run to Vila-Stanmore, coming from the west through the Blackett Strait and then returning to base by heading north through the Kula Gulf. However, as they passed through the Kula Gulf, they encountered an American force of 3 light cruisers and 3 destroyers heading towards Vila-Stanmore in order to shell it. The resulting short battle became known as the Battle of the Blackett Strait, the Battle of Vila-Stanmore, or the First Battle of Kula Gulf. American forces established radar contact with the Japanese destroyers at 12:57 a.m. on March 6th, which were not aware of them. The cruisers opened fire at 1:01 at around a range of 11,000 yards. They were using radar-controlled gunnery, still a relatively new technology, and erroneously decided to concentrate all of their fire on the Murasame since it was likely the more visible radar contact for them. However, the Minegumo was not able to take advantage of this opportunity and fire torpedoes at the American forces, as Japanese ships had successfully done in similar situations during prior engagements. The Murasame was hit by the 6th salvo of shells from the cruisers, with a substantial fire breaking out on it. Seeing that it was crippled, at around 1:06, the American cruisers quickly switched to targeting the Minegumo, which attempted to return fire but was heavily outgunned. It was hit repeatedly, came to a complete stop, and sank at around 1:30. At 1:15, the Murasame was struck by a torpedo from the American destroyer Waller, which had fired a spread of 5 of them at 1:02 when it was 6,000 yards ahead of the cruisers to their southwest. It caused a large explosion that sank the Murasame. The Japanese destroyers had managed only weak and ineffective return fire throughout the engagement. American forces ceased firing at 1:14 and moved into position to bombard the Vila-Stanmore base and airfield, which they began at 1:24. The defensive batteries on the island were rapidly destroyed, and the shelling was very damaging to the Vila-Stanmore infrastructure. It ended at 1:40, with the U.S. forces retreating north through the Kula Gulf. A total of 174 Japanese sailors lost their lives during the battle, with the survivors of the sunken destroyers swimming to the shore of Kolombangara. While no American surface ships were lost, and they did not suffer any substantial damage nor even have any casualties, a submarine, the USS Grampus, may have been sunk just prior to the battle. It had been assigned to loiter south of Kolombangara to prevent Japanese ships from passing through that area, and could have been sunk by the Murasame and Minegumo on the night of March 5th, before the engagement, but the fate of the Grampus and its entire crew remains unknown. The bombardment of Vila-Stanmore took place concurrently with a similar one against the Japanese airfield and base at Munda Point. At 8 p.m. on March 5th, 4 American destroyers broke off from the Vila-Stanmore group as the combined force approached the New Georgia Islands from the southeast, and then sailed around Rendova Island through the Solomon Sea before taking positions southwest of New Georgia Island itself. Depending on their position in the formation and planned role for the mission, the destroyers cycled in and out of shelling the Munda installations starting at 1:41 a.m. on the 6th and lasting for about 15 to 20 minutes. Similar to the bombardment of Vila-Stanmore, the shelling of the infrastructure at Munda was generally effective and destructive. Another major sea-based bombardment of Vila-Stanmore came in mid-March, with a dual naval shelling of both Munda and Vila-Stanmore also occurring in mid-May. The ground campaign to capture the New Georgia Islands began on June 30th with American landings on New Georgia and the surrounding islands and lasted until early October 1943.